All right, so recently I had a conversation with a guy on my channel about he was having a hard time pulling shots as he was shooting his handgun. I've spent a little bit of time on the firing line with a few people here and there, and done a little bit of shooting myself. And usually when people are not shooting accurately, one of the first areas to look at is your trigger control. So I wanted to show you guys a little drill, and I do this myself today even to maintain good trigger control. First, I'm going to make sure that I'm dealing with an empty handgun. So I'm going to remove my magazine, rack the slide a couple of times, lock it to the rear, check it physically with my finger in the mag well in the chamber, then look. Now I know my firearm is clear. So now I'm ready to proceed with my drill. So basically what I'm going to do is attempt to replicate what the cycle that my handgun goes through when I'm firing. As I acquire sights, I begin to apply pressure to the trigger. And what I want to do is first I'm going to take up the slack in the trigger, and I'm going to come up to the pressure wall. And I'm going to start increasing my pressure until the trigger breaks and the hammer drops. Now I'm going to continue to hold that pressure, and while I'm holding that pressure, I'm going to manually cycle the slide. Once I've cycled the slide, I'm going to reaffirm my firing grip, and I'm going to begin to relax my pressure on the trigger until I hear the trigger reset, and then I'll press again on the trigger. Cycle the slide, release pressure, but not all the way. I don't want my finger to leave contact with the trigger. And then I'll increase pressure again until it breaks. While I'm doing this, it's helpful if I pick a point of aim, put my front sight on it, and make sure that as I'm depressing the trigger, my sight is not moving. There should be no movement in my front sight. So I cycle the slide, reset my trigger, press, reset, press, reset, press. Two important concepts here. One is that as I reset the trigger, my finger never loses contact with the trigger. And two, that I release only as much pressure as I need to reset the trigger, and then I immediately begin pressure to the rear again. So I'm going to reciprocate my slide, place my finger on the trigger, take up the slack, press, the hammer breaks. Now I don't release that pressure. I'm going to cycle the slide. Now listen for the trigger reset. Hear that click? That's my trigger resetting. As soon as I hear that reset, I begin to apply pressure again. Each time that I reset and redepress the trigger, I'm watching for my front sight to not move. Reset. Press. There should be no movement to my muzzle as I do that. So, really helpful drill for developing the muscle memory needed to do appropriate trigger control as a trigger reset drill. And again, you're just going to fix your sights on something. You'll depress the trigger, cycle the slide, depress the trigger, cycle the slide, and every time you're looking to make sure your front sight doesn't move during the reset of the trigger and the subsequent press. Then when you do it live fire, what you want to do is after every time you fire, you want to keep that trigger depressed until your front sight starts to settle back down. Once your front sight starts to settle back down from the recoil, you can release a little pressure until your trigger resets and then press it again.